It's okay, it takes time. I know.
Welcome back to Strong. I am so excited to bring another incredible guest to our episode. Today we are zooming around the world to Alberta, Canada, where we're meeting with Bean, and we're going to talk about all things life at her end of the world. How are you today, Bean?
Hi, I'm good. How are you over in Dubai?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to have you here. With everything that's going on in the world right now, I'm reluctant to introduce you, even though you've given me an introduction to who you are, because I want to get it right. And I think things are changing all over the world. And I want this introduction to be seen in the light that you want it to be seen in. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Bean, and introduce me to who is Bean.
Good question. That's a loaded question too. Well, I am a woman of color. My parents are from India. I was born here in Canada. And that in itself had its own challenges, trying to assimilate two different cultures. I lived in a very strict religious household. And so there was a lot of rules and a lot of things that we couldn't do. So it was hard to navigate that for me and my siblings, being Indo-Canadian and finding the balance. And I hate using that word because there's no such thing as balance in life ever, but trying to find the right mix of like the Western culture and our Indian culture. And then, I grew up, I went to school, I got married, and then I got divorced. And the big part of my life really started 9 years ago when I was paralyzed in July of 2012 by a virus that attacked my spinal cord. And obviously flipped my life upside down. I really didn't know what I was going to do, if I had a future, what it was going to look like. I was super insecure, hated everything about my life, hated everything about my body, really just wanted to die. I didn't want to live. I didn't want to be here. And not going to lie, that, those thoughts come around a lot. But what I did do is I poured myself into my physical recovery. And along with that was my mental health recovery as well, because there was a lot of recovery and, excuse me, every time I have to do an interview, I don't know why. So there was a lot of work that needed to be done for my mental health as well, a lot of trauma that needed to be processed. The way I left my ex-husband was he beat me up for the first and last time. So I experienced domestic violence, and 3 months later, my dad left our family. 2 weeks later, I was paralyzed. So I really hope 2012 stays as the worst year of my life. I don't know if I can handle much more than that. But yeah, like I said, I dove headfirst into my recovery. My physical recovery was really important to me. I was in a place where I was able to travel around to find different therapies, find different programs that could help me with my spinal cord injury. And that's when I found activity-based training. And that's when I fell in love with it. And the results I saw were incredible. And all it is exercise, mind-focused exercise. And so that led me on the path to opening my own center here in Edmonton. And now I firmly believe that that is why I was paralyzed, was to open a center here.
Hearing you retell the story, it just sounds seamless. It sounds perfect and almost like the perfect happily ever after. So I want to go backwards and take you to the beginning of that story, because I really believe that resilient people, strong people, role models like yourself, when we hear the retelling of the story, we're all really excited because it is that happy at the end of it. And I think young people that start going through challenge give up really quickly because they reheard stories like this and thought, well, when does my happy ever after come? So I think let's put it into context. This happened in 2012. You said it all started to happen. Yeah. Take us to your life pre your being paralyzed. Take us to, put for us into context who Bean was before you became paralyzed.
I was very unhappy, very, very unhappy. I was in a marriage that was really, really difficult. I tried everything that I could do to make my marriage successful because I didn't want to be divorced. I didn't want my marriage to fail. And, I grew up with my dad saying that the only D word is death, right? So no divorce, no whatever. That's how I grew up. And so that's how you're programmed. But at the same time, I got married when I was 25, and all of this happened when I was 30 in 2012. I had never been able to speak my emotions. I've never been able to communicate how I'm feeling. I was never able to speak my truth. And I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what that felt like. I constantly, buried all of my emotions inside, or I would sweep everything under a rug, or I would numb myself. I'd numb myself with alcohol, with shopping, with anything that I could find to distract myself from the trauma and from my emotions and my feelings. I'd say, nope, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to think about that. Put that aside. I'm happy. I'm fine. Everything's great. And, it was, like I said, 2012, right? January of that year, I remember saying to my friend, like, I'm going to leave him this year. I don't know how much more they expect me to take from him, but I'm going to leave him. And then April comes around, and then that's when it was Easter long weekend. We had a lot to drink, a lot to drink, and we started fighting. And that fight went on for hours, and it ended up becoming a physical fight. And I have a zero tolerance policy for physical abuse, and really it should be for any abuse. And now it is for any abuse. I won't take any verbal, emotional, financial, nothing. I won't take any of it. But back then, I wasn't as strong as I am now. I didn't really know who I was. And, after that happened, I did leave, and all of my friends told me, listen, you need to go see a therapist. You need to go talk to somebody. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm totally good. Like, it's okay. I took a few days off work because I was very bruised up. But I continued as I was because I thought I was fine. I thought I was doing the right thing. Little did I know what was happening inside my body, the stress, the repressed emotion, the repressed feelings were wreaking havoc on my immune system. And then, my dad leaves our family at the end of June. And that too was really hard for me because I was close to my dad. And, this was like decades in the making, right? My parents had an arranged marriage, one of the ones that didn't work out. And they stayed together for us kids, which ended up doing more damage than it did help. And so then he left, and again, my friends are like, dude, like, you need to go talk to somebody. You need to like get the stuff out. But I just didn't know what therapy was. There was such a stigma around it. And I was just like, no, I'm fine. I don't need to do anything. But meanwhile, I'm drinking almost every day, making really bad decisions, hanging out with the wrong people, spending lots of money on stupid stuff that should have been going towards therapy. And how I was justifying it, it was like, well, I can't afford therapy. It's too much money. But I was just blowing money on alcohol, on shopping, on all these things, right? And then when I was paralyzed, I was in the hospital in Las Vegas talking to one of my best friends she's a life coach. And she said, Bean, this is God literally stopping you in your tracks and making you deal with your shit. I said, yeah, I think you're right. Because I left there with a misdiagnosis. So I had a diagnosis of conversion disorder, which is where you're so stressed out that your brain tells your body to shut down. Given my year and given 30 years prior to that of repressed emotions, trauma and stuff, it made sense to me, right? And because all of my other diagnostic tests, everything came back normal. Everything came back clear. All of my blood work, all the tests, everything. So this is really the only thing that made sense to me. And so the treatment protocol for this is to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist on a regular basis. You have to unlock whatever mental block you have in your head. And then I was told that most people will regain full function within 2 weeks. So that's kind of where my headspace was at when this happened. And I have always been a strong person. My shirt says always strong. It's a local brand here that I represent. And that's just always who I've been. My mom has always told me, you have to be strong. Like she's always showed us that you don't ever give up, right? She's always told us that, and she showed us that. And so that was my mentality too. Like you just always have to keep going. No matter what, you have to keep going. Well, this paralysis stopped me dead in my tracks. I couldn't go anywhere. I was fully dependent on other people. I went from being 100% independent to 100% dependent. I lost all bowel function. I lost all bladder function. I couldn't even sit up on my own. I had no muscles. I had no ab muscles, no back muscles, no leg muscles, nothing. I couldn't sit up. I couldn't roll over. I had to relearn how to balance and brush my teeth. Even sitting and holding my arm in front of my face, like it takes a lot of core muscles. We don't really realize how much our core and how many muscles we actually use to do the daily tasks that we do. Washing my hair, bringing my hands up above my head was atrocious. I was just flopping all over, wobbling all over the place. All of these things that like so many people like take for granted, right? And so I had to relearn how to do everything. And along with that, like, you know, I lost my confidence. I was very insecure. I was just like, one of the first things I remember thinking after being paralyzed was, who's going to date a girl in a wheelchair? Right? I was newly single, just 3 months been single. And, you know, that's what I was really looking forward to. Now I'm in a wheelchair and I have a catheter, right? And so like, you do not feel sexy. You do not feel like you're dateable at all. And because of the stigma surrounding people with disabilities, that's why one of my first thoughts was, who's going to date a girl in a wheelchair? Because I didn't believe that anybody would, because that's kind of what media has shown me. That's what society has shown me, that people with disabilities don't live productive lives. People with disabilities don't have jobs. People with disabilities aren't fit. They're not stylish. They don't have fun, right? That's the stigma. And so once I recognized that I have this stigma and now I'm the person with a disability, I really had to like reprogram myself, because that's not me. I am fun. I am stylish. I am going to be successful. Well, right. And like all these things, I am going to have a job. I am going to have a future, and I am going to have like a family and all these things that like I wanted previously. And so, you know, obviously nothing came easy, right? And it took a long time. One of the really good silver linings of all of this was that I started seeing a therapist. And I initially started seeing her 2-3 times a week. I still see her to this day. It's more of a as needed kind of basis right now. But she helped me through so much. She helped me find myself. She helped me love myself. And she helped me work through all the trauma. I mean, because as I was going through the paralysis, the first few months, I was still going through a divorce. And I still had a restraining order, and I was still dealing with probation officers, and I was still dealing with all of that on top of being paralyzed. And now not being able to work. I wasn't able to work. I was an X-ray technologist. You can't do an X-ray tech job from a wheelchair. And so all of these things, there are so many moving parts, and I had to learn how to navigate all of it. And that's where my strength comes from, is being forced to figure out, how strong are you? People have said to me many, many times, I don't think I could have done what you've done. But I say, you don't know how strong you are until you have no other choice but to be strong.
As you say this, right behind me is #strong. Bean, I speak to people almost every day. I hear stories. I think about my own story. What kept you going? I know that you said your mom said, regardless of what, you have to keep going. I know many people, my daughter included, that didn't keep going. What made you keep going?
My support system. There were many times where suicide ran through my head. I didn't want to live here. I didn't want to be on this earth. If you took half my body, why didn't you just take all of it? Those are the thoughts going through my head. I didn't want to live. I didn't want to. I really, really didn't want to. But my sisters, my brother, my cousins, my friends, they all really stepped up. And they showed me that my life had value, and that even though things are hard and, you know, it's not going to be the same as it was before, it's still worthwhile. So I continued to work with my therapist. Anytime my suicidal thoughts would come up, I would call her, or I would write up my feelings. I would talk to text usually, or I'd write it out how I'm feeling, and I would feel better. You know, we also did a few letting go ceremonies where I burned some pictures and, you know, read a few books written by feminists and just really learned the power of being a woman. Because being Indian, you're always told that the man is superior, right? Patriarchy. But in my household was run by a very strong woman. And so seen that role model and knowing that, like, my life has value, my life has purpose. This happened to me for a reason. And at that time, I had no idea what that reason was. It took me 4 years to figure out why I was paralyzed. And so it's not something that it happens, you're like, oh, okay, like this is why this happened to me. It takes a long time to figure those kinds of things out. Not just time, though, it takes action. You have to dig deep in yourself to find out, like, why am I the way I am? Because there's reasons. There are things that have happened to us in our past, and sometimes it can be something as simple as somebody taking your pencil in grade 2, right? And then that promotes a fear of, like, somebody taking your stuff or being possessive or whatever. So the reason why I kept going is because I just truly felt like I had no choice. I feel like I just have to. And then the more I would go, because like I said, my friends, they would come, they would take me to the restaurant. I went to clubs and I was the only person in a wheelchair in a club. And let me tell you, it's not a very comfortable scenario, but everybody is super nice to you. And, like, you get lots of free drinks. You never wait at any lineups. So there's perks to it, right? But there's also, like, oh my God, look at that girl in the wheelchair. Look at that girl in the wheelchair, right? And you know, you can see that. And so I would fake it. I would fake my confidence. One of my mottos my whole life has been fake it till you make it. So I would put a smile on my face. It's okay that I'm in a wheelchair. It's okay that I'm going to pee my pants. It's okay that all this stuff is going to happen because I'm here and I'm with my friends. I know I'm going to be safe. I'm with my sisters. I'm with my family. Like, I know I'm safe. I just have to make it through this next hour. Just have to make it through these next 2 hours. And that's kind of what was the conversation in my head. And after a few times of going out like that, it just came to be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going out. I don't care. And then I got to be like, why am I not seeing anybody else in a wheelchair here? Right? And that didn't really hit me until I went to California. When I went to California for therapy with my mom, we went for 3 weeks the first time. And we went to a pier in San Diego where they have, like, this market. I kid you not, I saw 15 people in wheelchairs. not together, all of them doing their own thing. And I was just like, what kind of bizarro land am I in that there's this many people in wheelchairs out and about? Because I never saw any here, like the occasional senior citizen or the occasional homeless person I would see in a wheelchair, but I would never see anybody who looked like me, spinal cord injury. So when I saw that in California, I was like, okay, statistically, anywhere there's able-bodied people, there are going to be people with disabilities, statistically, right? So why aren't I seeing any in Edmonton? So when I came back, I made that my mission. Like, I'm going to find them because I don't want to be the only one all the time. I need some friends. And so that's what I did. I started finding organizations, started seeing that they were having fundraisers and barbecues and going out there. And, you know, it took courage to go to these places. I always had somebody with me, my mom or my sister or a friend, because that, you know, they give you that support and you feel a little bit stronger when you have somebody that you know with you. And then I just started meeting people, and I am an extrovert, so I guess that does help in that situation. But yeah, once I started seeing more people, I called them my wheelie peeps, right? Or really awesome peeps. And once I started finding them and like meeting them and talking to them, like things just started changing, right? I just felt like I wasn't alone anymore. I felt like, okay, I found my crew. And, you know, a lot of people had said to me that had I not gone and reached out to them, they wouldn't be doing the things that they're doing now. And so like, there's so much power in that. And I didn't know I was doing that. I was just like, selfishly, I don't want to be alone. Right. So I don't know. I totally went off a tangent there. Sorry. Did I answer your question?
Not at all. I picked up on something that you said that I can resonate with. It was the thought that you had, I just have to get through this next hour or 2 hours. I'm safe. I have my mom, my sister. I remember having that very same thought at the beginning stages of when I was preparing our family for my daughter. And now to hear you say that, it makes me think, and I'm going to ask you, do you think that's what it is? That, because I don't remember anyone telling me to think that. Did you ever have anyone saying, think it this way? Or did it just come to you? Because I think for me, it just kind of, it was just like, okay, Maria, you have to get through today or this hour, kind of like what you were just saying. Would you say that it was life preparing you for that thought, or was it just a coincidence for you that you had that thought?
Good question. I'm not sure, to be quite honest. I don't know. I think that's our survival, right? And over the last few years, I've been speaking to mediums, and I've been speaking to, well, one medium in particular. And, you know, and this kind of stuff is very hippy dippy. Some people believe in it, some people do not. But she told me that everybody has a guardian angel. Every single one of us has a guardian angel. And we also have spirit guides. And so mine are 3 men. So my guardian angel is a giant angel. And then I have 2 male spirit guides. And on the other side, in the other realm, the 4 of us were always together, and I was actually their leader. And so, you know, when you hear these things, and after I had my first session with her and she told me all these things, and they told her a lot of stuff about my life. And I was like, whoa, right? Because I've never met this girl before. And like, how do you know all this stuff? Because they told her, because they're always with me. When I left that meeting, it was over Zoom because we're in COVID. But when I left the meeting, I just felt so loved and so protected. And then you think back, right? Like all of these scenarios when I was a little kid and I fell and I, you know, I was hanging off, my bracelet got caught on a ladder rung, and I was hanging there, almost lost my arm. Like so many things, all of these things, but nothing happened to me. And like, you just, hindsight always 2020. Even that day, like as you said, 1 more hour, just get through this day, you're going to be fine. It was them talking to me. It was them telling me, you're okay. You're going to be okay. We got you. And so I feel like, you know, now knowing what I know now and believing what I believe, I think it was them being like, yo, girl, you got this. You have really big things to accomplish. And that's something I've heard in my head a lot over my life. And I just never like, what? I don't know. I've never paid any attention to it. Never. Because I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know what. Because I was programmed to believe you go to school, you get married, you have kids. That's your life. That is the life of a good Indian girl, right? But yeah, I've heard that voice in my head a few times, like you have big things to accomplish. And I think like that's, yeah, one of the reasons why I was paralyzed is I was going down the wrong road. And to avert me and to bring me onto the proper path that I'm supposed to be on, I had to be paralyzed.
Dean, when you look in the mirror today, who do you see?
Oh, I see a strong, confident, beautiful woman who uses a wheelchair, doesn't take any crap from anybody, spreads kindness wherever I go as much as I can, provides hope to people, near, far, young, old, doesn't matter. I believe everybody deserves to have hope. And I've actually been told by the medical system that I give out too much hope. And I'm like, yeah, buy the bucketfuls and it's free and I'll never stop. Because without hope, people don't have a will to live, right? And so, yeah, I won't ever stop. And, you know, I still have bad days for sure. It's not to say that every single day I'm happy and positive and there's rainbows and sprinkles every day. Absolutely not. I'm still a human being, still have bad days, still get my period, which, you know, is a reason for bad days most months, right? But like still get super emotional and like, you know, there's things that have come up in my life over, you know, lots of adversity and just things that I've had to adjust and adapt to. But we're human beings and adapting is what we do the best. And that's why we've been here for so long. If we can't change and if we can't adapt, then like you're stagnant. And so that's one thing, like I'm not afraid of change. I welcome it. I expect it because I'm not the same person I was even 2 minutes ago. I'm a different person. My cells are constantly turning over in my body. Yours are as well, right? As human beings, we're constantly turning over. Things are constantly changing. So why are people afraid of change? I feel like I'm an advocate. I will always stand up for people who cannot stand up for themselves. I will use my voice to share my opinion and speak up for those who can't. I've been given this platform of advocacy, of you know, a role model, a public figure, and I'm not going to take it lightly. I will use it to create as much long-lasting change as I possibly can on the biggest scale that I possibly can.
Dean, I know that you're a busy woman. You talk about when we started, you were talking about the mindset and hearing you talk, it really sounds like not only the therapy, but even the self-reflection and the self-awareness, and of course the love from family and friends has really kept you together. You also mentioned that you still get those dark days. So I'm loving the honesty and the transparency in how you're retelling the story. What do dark days look like today? And when they do get dark, what reminds you that you've been through the toughest time already and you can make it through this next bit?
Good question. So my darkness, I call my depression my darkness. And for me, like my visualization of it is like, you know, in that Spider-Man movie Venom, he's black and he's sticky and like tar and he covers people and he like envelops them, right? To me, that's my depression. And my feet are always covered in it. My feet are always covered in black, sticky tar. And it's constantly trying to climb up my legs, constantly. And unless I do my mental health work, unless I do like my meditation, my positive affirmations, my gratitude every day, all of these little things, unless I do that, it's going to climb up my legs and it's going to come and get me. And it has enveloped me before. And I was in a deep, dark depression for about 3 months. And I was not a pleasant person. It was not fun to be around. And I didn't like it. And so now with those dark days, what it looks like, it often stems from frustration. And that frustration often stems from my bladder, from having a neurogenic bladder, from having so much spasticity in my legs and my back and my abs. Like, you know, right now looking at me, you can't really tell, but I am sitting in a wheelchair, and I have to fight my body for every movement. Every single movement, my body fights me. And it gets very, very frustrating. And there's many, many days where I'm just like, I'm done. I don't want to be in this body anymore. And those days, I mean, that's what it starts with. It starts with all the frustration. And then then those dark thoughts still start creeping into my head. Like, why are you even doing this? Do you think your life is even worth it? Do you even know who you are? You're nobody. Like, why are you even doing this? Just end it. Put it out of your misery. You'll be happier. Those are the thoughts that come into my head. But I have to counteract those thoughts. And sometimes it's not right away. It's not. And what I have done in the past and what I still do is I'll set a timer on my phone for 2 hours. And if I have the time, like if I don't have meetings and stuff like that, if I have the time, I'll just sit at home. I'll cry. I will kick, scream, punch, whatever. I have punching bags at my gym, so I'll do boxing. I'll do whatever I have to do for those 2 hours to get it out. I'll sometimes write out my feelings. Sometimes I'll just like listen to really like heavy metal music and just kind of rage and, just get it out. But as soon as that timer goes off at 2 hours, that's it. My pity party is done. I don't have time for this. I have other things I need to accomplish. I have other things I got to do in my day. And so as soon as that timer goes off, wipe the tears, wash my face. And I've gotten to the habit of looking in the mirror, and not just looking in the mirror generally, looking into my eyes in the mirror really, really closely, and actually looking in my pupils and giving myself a pep talk. You got this. You are worth it. Your life has value. You are smart. You are confident. You are making change. You are wanted here. And I say that to myself. And I don't say the same thing every time, but I say whatever kind of comes to my head is what I say to myself while looking myself in the eye. And it's a really hard thing to do. It's really, really hard to look at yourself in the eye, because we're just constantly, the first time I did it, I just kind of like darted around and was like looking at my hair, looking at my eyebrows and whatever. And I'm like, hey, no, focus. Look at yourself, right? You have nobody else to answer to but yourself. Your happiness isn't in anybody else's hands but your own. And these are lessons that I've had to learn the hard way over the last 39 years. And so that's why I happily share what I do, because it's worked for me and it can work for other people, but it's not easy.
Not at all. So you said that one of your biggest fears was getting married. Tell us more about that.
Well, it's just like, growing up as an East Indian, and as most females, you're kind of told this is how life goes. You're going to grow up, you're going to go to school, you're going to get married, you're going to have kids, you're going to live with your in-laws, you're going to raise your kids, they're going to get married, they're going to go to school, they're going to get married, and that's just the way of life, right? And so that's what I had expected as well. But with my marriage going the way it did, and it wasn't arranged. I chose it. It was my mistake to make, right? But the fear is like, personally, I don't believe humans are monogamous. I don't think we are. We're not monogamous creatures. And, the church created marriage, right? And government said, okay, well, if you're married, we'll give you a tax break. right? And so that's how like marriage kind of evolved. I mean, not fully, but like, you know, in my head, that's my thought process of marriage. And like seeing how my parents' marriage went, like I didn't have a very happy, holistic image of a marriage to look for. And so when I went into my marriage, I kind of had the same thing. Like, you know, I kind of married somebody who was like my dad, somebody who's a narcissist, somebody who was lazy, didn't want to work. And all of these things were subconscious, right? Because, you know, at the time, like I said, I never talked about my feelings. I never even did any self-reflection. I didn't do any of that. And so going into that and doing that, like, I don't know, it's just in my gut. I was just like, why are you doing this? But at the same time, I was like, I want my big Indian wedding, right? So I don't know. The fear, I think, was just, it is always the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, and the fear of success. Those three fears have been prominent in my life for many, many years and have been a factor in my decision making. And I didn't really even recognize that or become aware of it until like really only 4 years ago. Not long.
Do you still have that fear today?
Uh, no, not fear of marriage. No. Um, I've been single for so long now that like, you know, sometimes I'm just like, oh, like I really want to be with somebody. And, you know, as humans, we do work better in partners than we do alone. And I do want that. And, you know, but I'm not willing to date just to date. And I don't have time right now anyways. And so I don't think the fear is there. It's just my priorities have shifted a lot and my wants and desires have shifted a lot. I don't care to have somebody with me that I have to babysit or raise. I don't want that. I want a partner. And if you can't be at my level, if you don't vibe on my frequency, I don't have time for it.
What do you recommend to any young person watching this that might be thinking, life's really difficult and they don't know if they can make it the distance?
I would say you're right. Life is very difficult. A couple of lessons that I learned, you know, like I said, the hard way. I learned a lot of lessons the hard way, but life isn't fair. It's not meant to be fair, right? And it's not easy either. I don't know why we expect life to be easy. We expect life to be fair because I think that's what's shown to us, right? That's shown on media, that's shown in newspapers, and so it's shown on social media. I mean, you see the filtered version of people's lives and you think, oh, wow, like everybody has such a perfect life. Like I'm going to have a perfect life too. But that's not reality, right? Our strength comes from adversity. Our strength comes from, like, even if you're thinking about muscles, right? If you're working out and you're building muscles, you can only build your muscle with resistance, right? And same with your life. You can only build your inner strength when you face resistance. If everything is easy peasy and laid out for you, I mean, enjoy it. Okay, enjoy that. Because that's not how everybody's life is. But it's generally not like that. And if it is like that, there's going to be a catch. Something's coming, right? Like life isn't meant to be easy. You have to be able to face adversity on head on. And that really requires courage and bravery. And every single human being has courage, bravery, and perseverance within them. Every single one of us. It is programmed into us when we are conceived. And when we die, it goes into the next being or whatever you want to believe after that. Right? But it's in us. And it's up to us to find it within us. And, you know, sometimes that courage and that bravery comes out in random situations, right? Say you're in a car accident or say you witness something and you're like, oh my God, I got to do something. I got to go help. And you just don't even think, you just do it. That's courage. That's bravery, right? And it's in us. We all have it. So you just have to find it and know that it's within you. And even on those low days, those dark days when you're just like, I don't have any there's like 0.5% still in there. It's there. You have to find it. And, you know, you're the one who has to like bring it up and like bring it out. Because unfortunately, like I said before, your own happiness is in your hands. No one's going to help. No one's going to fix you. No one's going to provide it for you. You have to provide it for yourself. And the sooner you learn that, the sooner you can figure that out, trust me, the easier your life will be. And if anybody is watching this and they need help figuring that out, please reach out. I am more than happy to help and share what I have done for myself to find my courage and my bravery.
Dean, do you think sometimes that people rank each other's challenges? Do you think sometimes people think, I can't tell you I'm having a difficult day because I can't relate to the challenge that I see in you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever find that when someone's having a bad day that they shy away from telling you because they believe that they have no right to feel that life is tough because look how tough life was for you?
Yes, of course. I deal with that a lot. You know, people say, "Oh, well, you know, I don't want to burden you with my troubles because you already have so much." Right? And it's just like, you're not burdening me. This is what friends are for. If I'm allowed to speak about my problems and my troubles to you, then it should be reciprocated. And I have had to have this conversation with a few of my friends to be like, yes, I do have a lot of problems. Okay, understood, right? But that doesn't minimize yours. That doesn't make yours any less. And I feel like, you know, just saying that makes people feel better. And I don't ever judge people, and I try not to compare myself, right? So if somebody's telling me something like, you know, oh, I hurt my knee, I had to use a wheelchair for 2 weeks, I'm not going to be like, okay, well, I got 9 years on you. And like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to do that simply because your problems are your problems. And I have to respect that. And like, you know, obviously it depends on like what they're saying, how they're saying it, right? But most people will have said to me, like, I don't want to burden you. I don't want to tell you because you already have so much to deal with. But on the flip side, like, I kind of be like, yeah, well, look at how much I've been through, right? And I'm still here. So let me help you. Let me tell you what I've learned. Let me reach into my toolbox of, you know, mental health tips and tricks that I've learned from my therapist. And let me help you through yours. And like, so with that kind of attitude, people are just more likely to open up and stuff, right? I've also found though that people, it's like a competition kind of whose life is worst, who's on more medication, who's in more pain, who has more ailments. And I find that mainly on social media, like in Facebook support groups. I don't like them. I try not to be a part of any of them. I was in the beginning when I was first paralyzed because I wanted to interact with people who were like me, but it was so negative and everybody's just complaining all the time. And they're talking about, well, I'm on 12 medications. Well, I'm on 15 and I've had 30 surgeries. And it's just, we have to stop that. We have to stop the negativity. We have to stop the celebration of negativity. You know what I mean? It's celebrated. And I don't like that. I don't want to be a part of those kinds of conversations.
I mean, I could go on forever and I'm just so inspired by your outlook on life. I'm so inspired by your strength of character, of mindset, your honesty, your authenticity. How do we copy and paste whatever it is that you have? How do we do that, Bean? What are your top tips?
You have to practice every day for your mental and physical health. You must. For me, that is non-negotiable. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to write 10,000 pages. You don't have to meditate for 6 hours a day. It's nothing like that, right? And for me, I have a list of things that I do. I don't do everything every day, but I do something every day, right? And an easy thing to do is with my alarm, I've set it so that when it starts going off, it plays my positive affirmation playlist, right? So that's how I wake up. And my affirmation playlist is just, it's mine. I made it on Spotify, and I just, find different positive affirmations that people have recorded, and that ones that resonate with me, I created a playlist with it. And like, I listen to it when I'm in the shower, and not just listen, I repeat it. I say it out loud. And that was really difficult for me in the beginning to like start speaking it, because, well, so many things, right? So like, that's a big thing for me, is my positive affirmations. Gratitude. I write in my gratitude journal every single day, 3 things that I'm grateful for, and a positive affirmation for myself. And also 3 things I'm open to receiving. And I just started that earlier this year, actually. But with the gratitude, what it does is like, after you've written, oh, I'm grateful for my family, my house, all the generic stuff that we are grateful for, then it makes you look into your day. Like, what can I be grateful for today? The other day, I was driving. I was like, man, I'm really grateful for paved roads. Really, really grateful for paved roads. Oh, indoor heating, indoor plumbing, toilets, right? Like, there's so many things. My hands are something I'm grateful for every single day. These give me independence. These give me freedom. These allow me to be strong. And there's so many, a perspective as well, right? And I have many friends who are quadriplegics who don't have hand function. I have many friends who can't move anything except for their head, right? But they're still living, they're still trying. And so like, keep putting yourself but keep that perspective real. And then as far as physical movement goes, right? You have to move your body. When you move your body, you feel so good. Even if it's just for a few minutes a day, that's all you need to do. But I know when I don't work out, that darkness starts creeping up my legs, right? My mindset starts going somewhere else because I haven't burned on endorphins. I haven't released that stress, and it's still within me. And so I have to work out every day. I have to do my mental health stuff every single day. And that's non-negotiable. And that's something that, you have to build into your own routine. And it literally takes me less than 5 minutes. I'm not sitting there for 3 hours. It's 5 minutes. Like you said, I'm a very busy woman. From 5:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. my day is go, go, go. But I wouldn't be able to do all of that if I didn't take care of my mental and my physical health. It's so important.
Thank you so much, Bean. Thank you for being here and
Welcome.
for sharing your tips and your honesty. How can we find you? I really want more people to find you. How can we find you?
Totally. Well, my Instagram is at Branzoid, BRANZOID. My business one is at REYUPRC. I'm all over Instagram. I just started a TikTok as well, which is also Branzoid. And our website is reu.ca. And yeah, you can find me there. My phone number is all over our website. And you can reach me through Instagram or Facebook. I'm Bean Gill on Facebook. And I'm happy to talk to anybody who, needs some help or guidance or just somebody to vent to. I'll cry with you. Emotions are something that are beautiful. And you'll notice I haven't apologized for crying when I cried today. Because we're programmed to apologize. We're programmed to say sorry, but I refuse to apologize for my emotions because we're human beings. If we don't let our emotions out, they're going to stay in. And that's what led me to be paralyzed. So I won't ever do that again. So I implore you, if you need to cry, man. Let it out. You feel so much better after.
Thank you, Bean. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. This was awesome. I really appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you, Bean. I really do. It's stories like this that we need to be sharing more of. I really believe that it's time for real people to share their stories, because how do we teach resilience if we don't show what resilience looks like in real life?
Agreed. I agree.
And that brings us to the end of another incredible conversation. Today we spoke with Bean, who's based in Alberta, Canada, and we learned all about life through her eyes. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next week when we bring another incredible guest to Strong.